Hello and welcome. I am Patricia Baby Amawa. I'm being joined today by four amazing women, and we're going to be discussing the coronavirus pandemic and how this affects women, and also what this means for gender equality. So let's meet the ladies. First, we have Paulette Senior, who is the president and CEO of the Canadian Women Foundation. Hi, Paulette.
Thanks for having me.
You are welcome. Also, we have Jasminder, Sekhon, a human trafficking prevention facilitator. Hi.
Hi, it's my pleasure to be here.
You're welcome. Also joining us is Gemma Broderick of the Durham Rape Crisis Center. Hi, Gemma.
Thanks for having me.
And we also have Esther Enyolu, who actually is the one that facilitated this conversation. Esther Enyolu is the executive director of the Women's Multicultural Resource Center of Durham. Hi, Esther. Welcome.
Hi, Patricia. Thank you for having us.
Now, the world is being faced with, all kinds of challenges right now, which we are aware of, the coronavirus. And this has affected so many people in so many ways. Now, I'd like to start with you, Paulette. How is this affecting women?
What we're noticing is that globally, that violence against women, gender-based violence is actually increasing up to about 40% globally. And in Canada, what we're seeing is that increase is whether it be Assaulted Women's Helpline or similar helplines across the country, their increased calls are coming in at over 300, 400% increase, which is, we started the Tireless Together Fund, which is a fund created in response to the pandemic in order to raise money. But we also have been speaking with government. In that partnership with government, we've been able to direct money to sexual assault centers, for example, and then work and partner with Women's Shelters Canada as well, so that that organization can direct money to gender-based violence shelters. So those are just some of the responses as well.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is that the coronavirus pandemic has actually led to increased violence against women. What kind of resources are out there, and what can the government do to ensure that women have this access that they need at this very particular time in history?
It is quite difficult for women to access and to reach out to organizations supporting them because of safety issues. They are staying home with their perpetrators, with their partners and other family members. Some of the women who have reached out to us had to be in the washroom, go to their backyard, or tell their family members they were going for a walk, and within that period, they made that contact. So we want those women to know that even though we are working remotely, that we have created some form of tools to still assist them. But it will not be at the same level as when they were coming to the center. And this is also applicable to shelters. And luckily, the government, the provincial government has announced the grants, emergency grants for shelters and some rape crisis centers and some organizations to provide services to these women during this period of pandemic. And I know Victim Services and Ontario Works have been given some money to enable women to escape during this period, to put them in hotels so that they can free from violence. But the violence is still here.
I feel like the response to the violence against women was reactive and not proactive. I'd like to ask you, Jasminder, why do you think it's important for policymakers or program designers to take into account women or gender issues or gender disparities when actually planning or designing programs, especially when responding to crises such as the coronavirus pandemic?
According to the World Health Organization, that women make up about 70% of all healthcare and social care workers, which actually places them at the forefront of this crisis. So what we need to do is we need to ensure that gender concerns are being taken into account, and that they're being taken into account in an intersectional way. So we know that marginalized groups such as racialized women, Indigenous persons tend to have less access to economic resources. We know that differently abled women experience more severe forms of gender-based violence. So our government responses, they not only need to take into account the profound social divisions that pre-exist in our society, because these things, they are likely going to be replicated and very much compounded by this pandemic, as we can see by the violence against women, as Paulette has mentioned.
With the pandemic, a lot of people have lost their jobs, and people are going through like untold economic hardship. There's already economic disparity between men and women. Do you see the gap widening with this? And what do you think is the answer to this?
Now we have unemployment and job loss rates that we've never seen before. Unfortunately, too, we are concerned about the risk of financial abuse, sexual abuse, and other forms of abuse that are really connected back to financial insecurity. But the reality is there was economic differences unfortunately, between men and women before this occurred. Unfortunately, this kind of impact, I think, is gonna negatively, affect women, a lot of women during this time.
Well, we'll just take a short break right now. And when we come back, we'll continue our conversation on how the coronavirus pandemic is affecting women and what this means for gender inequality. Stay with us. We still have 4 amazing women here with us who are all advocating for women in their different fields. And we're talking about the coronavirus pandemic and how this is affecting women and what this means for gender inequality. Before the break, we're talking about violence against women and how the pandemic has actually, made this worse. Now, I'd like to talk about culture and tradition, how this has helped to perpetuate discrimination against women. There are roles assigned in society for women and roles assigned for men. And this means that, there has to be a paradigm shift if we are going to change the way we view women and the way women are treated. Now, I'd like to ask you, Paulette, what do you think about this?
We live in a society that has been governed by where we've all been sort of drinking the Kool-Aid of patriarchy. I think what's showing up that we're seeing in our already established patriarchal society is that the cracks of inequality are showing themselves up even more. Those among us who are racialized, poor, otherwise abled, women who are economically disadvantaged, the working poor, these are the ones who are most at risk. My not so secret plan and hope is that we will seize this opportunity in the aftermath to actually restructure certain things differently in society so that we're actually placing value where it belongs.
Right. Okay, so Gemma, I'd like you to jump in here and tell us what you think about this. What can be done to alleviate the sufferings that women all over the world are going through as a result of traditional roles that have been sort of assigned to them?
The reality is that unless we change how we perceive gendered norms and gendered, societal expectations, unfortunately, it does perpetuate other types of culture, like, unfortunately, like rape culture. Our organization is considering at this time and hopefully using some of this, extra support and resources to develop things like web-based chat and text-based support. So traditional crisis lines, which we operate and certainly are being used, utilizing technological culture and adapting it during this time, which is what we're doing quite quickly, to be able to provide women a web and or text-based service that could be a lot more secure for them, and hopefully, help out during this time.
At the Kenya Women's Foundation, we were fortunate enough to have the tool called Signal for Help. And it's a tool that does not leave a digital footprint. In fact, it's a simple action of putting up your hand and tucking your thumb and just folding your fingers over. And that's a signal that you're actually needing help. And so then it's important that when we're online and we see something like that, that we find a way to check in with a woman, because calling 911 isn't necessarily the best thing to always do. But I also hasten to say that this is a tool that has limitations. So even though it could be helpful in this way, it may not be helpful in other ways where women are not working online. And so it's just one tool in the toolbox.
Norway has pioneered the QUOTA system. And because of this, they now have about 40% of women in their boardrooms. However, these women have been ridiculed and actually labeled the golden petticoats. And some people are saying that they were promoted just to tick a box, not necessarily because of their talent and what they bring to the table. Now, what have you to say about the QUOTA system? Is that something that you think should be taken into account in this, sort of advocacy for women? Or what do you think is the best approach to gender equality?
Well, I think that quotas are actually quite important in order to help rectify the underrepresentation of marginalized groups. We need equity in order to achieve equality. Even in Norway specifically, research that followed up with the organizational directors in different companies, it actually found that individuals who were first unfamiliar with quotas were afraid to adopt them, but once they did, they thought that it was really, really important. And that's because of all the substantial positive effects that this was found to have in Norway. It's also not just enough to hire women without taking into account their intersecting identities. So in order to achieve the positive effects of these quotas, we need to ensure that there's diversity beyond just gender. We need to take in, individuals that are from different ethno-racial minorities. We need to take into account the knowledge from indigenous groups. We need to take into account knowledge from people that come from different classes or individuals that are differently abled. And if we're able to take these things into account, we can truly achieve equality in the world by using equity.
Esther, what have you to say about this? What's your take on this?
I would like to commend the Norwegian government for taking that action to hire some women. And we saw a similar thing in 2015 when the Honorable Prime Minister of Canada appointed few women to his cabinet. And he was also called feminist government. So, so they tend to give a name, to certain government when it takes certain action to encourage women's participation. It is good that these women have been appointed. Another thing we have to look at is, are they getting all the support that they need to make effective changes? Because sometimes we like to appoint some women or some minority group to an office just to make us look good. Another thing we have to look at, why we put those people in that position, are we supporting them? Are we empowering them to make effective decision in that role we appointed them to occupy? So that's my take on that.
I like what you said there, Esther, about the fact that it's not just enough to just appoint women or give them the opportunities, but support them. Because sometimes these women are given the opportunities, but they're set up to fail. So I really like that point. Yeah, Paulette, I'm eager to hear what you have to say, because we're not...
First of all, I just want to add to what my two sisters have already said. Women have been ready a long time. And so it's not for lack of training. It's not for lack of skill and expertise. It's simple exclusion. And if what it takes is quotas, then so be it. One wise person some time ago said, equality or equity or justice will always feel oppressive to those who have been the oppressor. And women are not saying, please let me in. Women are demanding their rightful place at tables because decisions that are being made are impacting us. And if we are excluded from those tables, then that's the problem.
So we'll just take another break in. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation with the panel regarding how the coronavirus is affecting women and gender inequality. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. We're still here with the panel and we're discussing the COVID-19 pandemic and how it is affecting women and what this means for gender equality. Now, before the break, we were talking about all kinds of issues, and we also spoke about the quota system and how this is helping women to have better representation in Norway and some other countries. Now, let's talk about strategies that, different countries, governments, people, organizations can take to make sure that there is representation. Equal representation for women and men. I'd like each and every one of you to actually chip in and tell me what you think can be done to make sure that there's equality for women on the different fairs, different places in government, in the boardrooms, and everywhere. So I'll start with Gemma.
Women supporting other women can be quite important. And I know that's something that I certainly valued during my career is, different diverse mentors that helped me kind of grow. And I certainly think that's important to do for young women. We see youth specifically as a population that needs some support.
We need anti-oppressive policies, including, positive hiring practices that take into account diversity. We also need safe work environments, and we need effective responses to gender-based violence, as Gemma has touched on as well.
The strategies we include eradicating negative attitudes and practices that promote gender inequalities, engaging everybody, as well as beginning as early as possible when children are in the primary school to educate them on gender-based issues.
Working with young people to ensure that they understand what it means to be in a healthy relationship, not just in terms of intimate relationships, but all relationships. It's important to run for political office. Run and run again and run again, because that will enhance, that will put you forward, and not just in terms of holding office, but other critical leadership positions that exist in society.
Well, we'll just take a short break right now. And when we come back, we'll continue our conversation on how the coronavirus pandemic is affecting women. Stay with us. So how are you guys keeping yourselves safe? And I just want you guys to share tips for people out there, how they can, stay beautiful and sane at this time.
This, for me, has been a time of self-reflection and being able to help others. And I think that's what's really kept me happy. So, yeah.
Okay, that's good. Paulette?
I get down to my basement and I work out, because I need to get that cardio in a few times a week. Sometimes I'll go outside for walks for fresh air. This pandemic can really bring on anxiety. So my mental health is as important as my physical health and my spiritual health. The work keeps me sane, as Jasminder says. And knowing that there are other people, not just me sitting around my dining room table alone, but there are other people who are doing the same thing alone, but we're together getting this work done.
Whether that's taking a walk with my dog, or, taking a nice bath, or, today getting dressed as if I was actually going to work. These little things just kind of, just help, I think. And, in terms of that. And, you know, through all of this, I have a 2-year-old running around. So I'm trying to balance everything. And thankfully I do have support. And I think about, you know, many of the women that don't have that support. You know, my loving partner has certainly helped me be able to do things like this. So I appreciate that as well.
That's good. Esther?
I'm working from home and at the same time trying to take care of myself, doing things, self-care, and having the quality time with my family that I didn't have before, cooking as well. Initially, I was scared and say, after this pandemic is over, people might not recognize Esther. So I have to start doing something, you know, to remedy that. So
talking about the cooking, I've been cooking a lot and eating a lot too.
Yes.
I saw a post on Facebook and somebody said that the mask that we wear to go to the grocery stores or to go out, we actually need it to keep us away from actually going to the fridge and the kitchen. I just want to thank you all for all your inputs and views and wisdom. It's been really wonderful. And I must commend all of you for continuing the advocacy work for women. I'd like to also thank you at home for watching. I know we're all facing, you know, very challenging and unpredictable times right now, but I just want to encourage you to do whatever you can to keep yourself sane, exercise, meditate, you know, connect with people, call your friends and family, and make sure that you're in touch, and be spiritually also, health-wise, and all around grounded at this time. And remember to use your time well as well, because time lost can never be regained. I'd like to thank our healthcare workers who are working tirelessly to make sure that, you know, as we stay home, our loved ones who are sick are being taken care of. As well, I'd like to thank essential workers, our grocery store workers, the police, and everyone who is out there working to keep society going. And everyone who's lost a loved one to COVID-19, I just also want you to know that our prayers are with you and we're with you in this. So make sure you stay happy, stay connected with someone. And until next time, I'm Patricia Baby Amawa. Take care. Bye, ladies.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.